We're gonna cross that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
5 years have passed since a comet struck Earth, wiping out more than 75% of the global population. Fragments still drift in the atmosphere. The air remains polluted, and lingering radiation has made earthquakes and electromagnetic storms a constant fact of life. Humanity survives underground in bunkers. John lives with his family in a bunker in Greenland, working as both an engineer and a scout, occasionally suiting up in hazmat gear to assess the state of the world outside. One day, he notices another fissure has opened, confirming the cracks are spreading. At the beach, he discovers a wrecked ship surrounded by abandoned lifeboats. Finding nothing useful in the boats, he climbs into the ship through a breached hull and recovers tools, then discovers the dead crew further inside. In a drawer, he finds a notebook pressed with a preserved flower and takes it with him. Just then, the bunker radios a storm warning. John sprints for the gate as an electromagnetic storm closes in behind him, making it through just in time to seal the entrance before it strikes. After decontamination, John sits in stunned silence, shaken by how close he came to dying. He later meets with his therapist, admitting how unsettling the world has become. The therapist tells him everyone is carrying trauma while pretending otherwise, and encourages him to be more open with his family. Meanwhile, his wife Allison attends a leadership meeting where officials worry about dwindling resources. As she learns John has returned safely, Amina shares new findings. The crater left by the comet, due to its size and depth, blocks radioactive storms and keeps polluted air out, potentially making it one of the only safe places left on Earth. Adam points out the crater sits in southern France, currently consumed by civil war. An earthquake shakes the bunker mid-discussion, but everyone simply waits it out. Someone notes the quakes have been increasing. Amina explains shifting tectonic plates are behind it, though a soldier shrugs it off, confident the bunker will survive. Allison reminds the group of an incoming distress signal. Adam wants to ignore it, citing limited resources, but Allison insists every decision requires a vote. The group sides with her, and they agree to send a snowcat rescue mission the next morning. While John repairs pipes elsewhere, Allison finds their son Nathan outside without authorization and scolds him, reminding him how badly his father's lungs suffer from scouting trips. Over dinner, John gives Allison the flower from the wrecked ship. She presses Nathan to confess he snuck outside, and John, angry, scolds him until the boy storms off. The couple shares a quiet dance afterward, though Allison grows worried hearing John cough again. In his room, Nathan uses a flashlight and small holes poked through his bedsheet to project artificial stars onto the ceiling, pretending he's outside beneath a real sky. The next day, John spots new cracks forming in the bunker's walls. Meanwhile, the snowcat team rescues a group of survivors, but radios and requesting a second trip since several people had to be left behind. Adam refuses, citing resource limits, and at that moment, another earthquake strikes, severing contact with the snowcat entirely. The bunker shakes harder than ever, sending people and furniture crashing. Sections of ceiling begin collapsing across multiple rooms, trapping and injuring residents. Falling debris strikes John in the head, worsening his cough, though a friend helps pull him to safety. The alarm blares as another tremor hits, followed by a nearby explosion. John rushes to find Allison, injured by falling rubble, helps her up, and together they search for Nathan. They find him in his room wearing a mask but still struggling to breathe. John tells them to pack while he searches for more masks. Amid the panic, he reaches the supply lockers and returns with enough for everyone. Nathan's breathing improves, and the family heads for the exit. With the structure still collapsing, they find a desperate crowd jammed at the only partially open main door. Unable to get through, John redirects them to the east tunnel, only to find it's already collapsed. With no other option, the family crawls beneath the rubble, narrowly making it across to a second door. John triggers the release mechanism, accelerating the collapse around them, but the family sprints clear and reaches the surface safely as geysers erupt from the ground. In the chaos, John and Allison briefly lose sight of Nathan, only to find him helping an injured doctor. Amina to her feet. They bring her along as they race toward the beach, where panicked survivors scramble onto departing boats. The crowd grows so dense that one boat capsizes, spilling people into the water. Desperate survivors try to steal Adam's protective mask, and John and Allison rush to help him, though one man still manages to rip John's own mask away before they drag Adam to shore. With only one boat remaining, John guides his family and a handful of survivors aboard. Allison wants to take more people, but the pilot insists the extra weight would sink them, forcing them to turn others away as the boat pulls off, survivors clinging to its sides until a massive wave crashes over the beach, killing everyone left behind. The wave nearly capsizes their boat too, but the pilot pushes them through to open water. John's device confirms breathable air, letting everyone remove their masks. With Iceland gone, the group agrees England is their best remaining option. Hours later, the engine fails, but John repairs it enough to keep moving. That night, Nathan finally sees real stars for the first time. Days later, the boat runs out of fuel entirely, leaving the group to ration food and drift. Eventually, they wash ashore in Liverpool. John confirms the air is safe, though much of the area is flooded, forcing him to row the boat manually until it reaches dry road. The town appears abandoned, but they spot distant figures and follow them to a small, struggling settlement of locals, many visibly sick. Following the sound of shouting, the group finds a crowd protesting outside a guarded bunker. Adam rushes the gate, identifying himself as a government official and requesting asylum. Only Allison has proper identification, and as tensions rise, a soldier shoots Adam, then another desperate survivor who tries to force entry. The gate slams shut as alarms wail, and a storm rolls in overhead, scattering the panicked crowd. Amina and John's family flag down a van driven by Obi, who agrees to take them to London for a price, taking John's watch as payment. They speed clear of the storm just in time. Allison comforts a shaken Nathan while Amina quietly grieves. Obi explains that desperation has made people willing to kill for food. Hours later, they stop in a forest to rest. Obi shares that he immigrated from Nigeria 12 years earlier and has no regrets, and when John asks about France, Obi dismisses the crater story as a myth. Suddenly, comet fragments rain from the sky, forcing everyone to cling to trees as debris tears through the canopy. Obi bolts to save his van, but is caught when a fragment crushes it and him together. Once the shower passes, the group salvages what they can and continues on foot. They eventually reach London and knock at a heavily secured building. A woman named Mackenzie opens a small hatch and points a gun at them, lowering it once she recognizes old friends. She welcomes them inside, revealing the building is a retirement home now sheltering elderly survivors, kept alive by a generator-powered air filtration system. Over a meal, John asks about the crater rumors. Mackenzie has heard them too, but can't confirm anything, and gunfire echoing through the streets confirms London itself is no longer safe. That night, Allison wakes to find John coughing blood in the bathroom. He initially brushes it off as a nosebleed, but eventually admits the truth. A bunker doctor warned him weeks ago his condition is terminal, with limited time remaining. Devastated, Allison wants to stay and spend his remaining time quietly together, but John refuses to settle there, determined to find his family a real home first. The next morning, Mackenzie gives them one of the retirement home's abandoned cars along with a gun, embracing them tearfully before they depart. Hours into the drive, with Nathan visibly withdrawn, John starts a game to lighten the mood, until gunfire shatters a window, killing Amina instantly. Armed robbers in the brush keep firing, careful to avoid the engine since they want the vehicle intact. John returns fire from behind the car, taking down attacker after attacker until he runs dry. Allison finishes the last one with a second weapon just in time. After grieving together, they bury Amina, John offering a final farewell that puzzles Nathan, who finds it strange to wish someone well after they've already died. The family eventually reaches a vast dried expanse, what remains of the English Channel, meaning no boat will be needed to cross. Along the way, they pass scattered wreckage, including a fully preserved Spanish galleon, until the road becomes blocked by abandoned cars and stranded survivors. Ahead lies a massive chasm separating England from France, crossable only by a dangerously unstable rope bridge. Nathan freezes in fear, so John goes first to lead by example, the family inching across carefully. A sudden gust nearly sends John sliding off mid-cough, but he recovers, and the wind passes as quickly as it came, letting them reach a rocky outcropping at the chasm's center. Two ladders connect the formation to the far side. As they rest, another earthquake strikes. Everyone holds on, but the rope bridge behind them finally gives way entirely, sending several people down. On the opposite ladder, a man realizes escape is impossible and shoves another climber into the abyss in panic. As that ladder begins to fail, the man leaps and lands directly on Nathan just as the rock formation itself starts crumbling, tearing the second ladder loose along with several more people. The desperate man loses his grip, but Nathan manages to cling to the ladder's edge long enough for his parents to pull him to safety. With the formation disintegrating beneath him, the family scrambles across and finally reaches French soil. The journey continues on foot through endless wasteland until a gunshot rings out. Dennis, aiming a weapon, lowers it once he realizes they aren't bandits and offers shelter. He leads them to an old factory he's converted into a home, powered by a car engine running on solar panels, where he introduces his daughter Camille and his wife, left mute and wheelchair-bound by nerve damage from radiation exposure. Over dinner, Dennis learns of their goal to reach the crater and warns them the region is extremely dangerous. Only 2 cities remain standing, with various factions, including remnants of the French army, fighting for control of the site. Camille shows Nathan scavenged treasures from her father's salvage runs, and he shares his makeshift star sheet in return. The next morning, Dennis hands John a map marking the safest route and the name of a trusted military contact, along with an old photograph to prove the connection. Overcome with emotion, Dennis asks if they'll take Camille with them, unable to leave his wife behind to make the journey himself. John hesitates, but Allison agrees. After a tearful farewell between Camille and her parents, the group departs together in Dennis's van. Hours later, sensing the teen's mood souring, Allison calls for a break, and John lifts everyone's spirits with a round of Would You Rather. Soldiers suddenly surround the van, but Camille's mention of her father's military contact convinces them to provide safe passage. By nightfall, they reach an active war zone where government forces battle insurgents. A guide leads them through the forest under cover, pausing when a nearby explosion forces them to freeze before pressing on through a breached fence into more dangerous territory. They move quickly through gunfire and explosions, the battle raging around them. Their guide radios ahead that he has civilians in tow, and his team provides covering fire as they push through the trenches, John nearly collapsing from his worsening cough as they navigate past the fighting. Eventually, their guide directs them up a ladder and into the forest beyond, instructing them to keep walking until they find a camp. By morning, they reach the military settlement, where Camille spots unfamiliar mountains in the distance, confirming they're close to the crater. They learn Dennis's military contact has died, and the remaining soldiers are reluctant to help, until John explains his condition and that he only wants to see his family safe, moving one soldier enough to secure them a seat on an outbound bus. The journey is cut short when an explosion rocks the road and insurgents surround the bus. A soldier who steps out to fight is brought down immediately, and the insurgents force everyone off after taking out the driver too. John sends his family ahead but stays behind to tackle one of the attackers while a fellow refugee knocks out another with a thrown rock. Shots ring out from inside the bus, and John emerges with a weapon, revealing he's been hit. The group reboards, Nathan applying pressure to his father's wound as Allison drives. They reach the crest of a final mountain, helping John walk the rest of the way until the crater finally comes into view, and the rumors prove true. Lush, fertile, and free of contamination, it's everything they hoped for, a real place to begin again. In that moment, John's strength finally gives out, and his family gathers around him for a final goodbye, Nathan quietly repeating his father's familiar words as the family says farewell together.